Hello, welcome to IELTS Band 9 Success channel. I'm your host, Edward. Today we're going to look at an IELTS Task 2 essay and see how we can improve the essay and transform it from a Band 5 essay into a Band 7 one. There are mainly two issues with this essay, which are the vocabulary choices, that's about the lexical resources in the marking criteria, plus the task achievement, so that's whether the writer has successfully answered the question. Now, without much ado, let's begin. First, let's take a look at the question. In some countries, an increasing number of children are overweight or obese as a result of eating too much fast food. Banning fast food from school canteens is the best way to fight this problem. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So what we in general do with the opening paragraph is to paraphrase the question and change the wording but keep the meaning. Here the student has done an alright job in terms of paraphrasing the question, but there is some room for improvement. Say, for example, the word choices. In the first sentence, we see the student uses the phrase obesity cases, which is kind of odd to say. Well, you may say obesity, okay, but you have to change the sentence structure here. You can say something like obesity has been on the rise in many countries. Or you may say the obesity rates in many countries have been rising. Now, as we move on to the second sentence, the writer has clearly stated his stance, right? So in terms of content here, this is fine. But once again, he might want to think about changing the phrase fight this problem, because that's the phrase originally used in the question. So he might consider using a phrase like tackle this issue, just to show the examiner you are not just copying, but you have an understanding of the question and you have the vocabulary to convey the meaning at the same time. Now we move on to the next paragraph, which is body paragraph 1. This is the main body paragraph, and it's also quite problematic in terms of the word choices again. As we can see from the first line here, the great power of an educational institution. So think about the question itself. It's asking about school canteens. Well, if you check in the dictionary, you know the word institution means a very established organization, or sometimes I can refer to a university, but it is not the synonym for schools. And by schools, alright, the term actually covers kindergartens, the primary schools, the secondary schools as well. So here, this is the wrong word choice. So the writer should probably change that to schools. Well, the great power of schools is the way how they influence the students and their lives depend on them. Well, once again, this is quite odd to say, right? If you say students' lives depend on the schools, that's a bit over the top. You may say students' academic performance depend on the schools that they're studying in. Or you can also say students' well-being depend on the schools they are studying in. But if you say their lives depend on the schools, so that is just exaggerating. Besides, another issue with this sentence here is it's supposed to be the topic sentence, but it doesn't show the central idea of this whole paragraph. The next word which requires revision is the word impose. You can see the writers write something like teachers may impose to avoid eating unhealthily. If you check the dictionary, you can see the word impose is a transitive verb. So after impose, you should have a noun or maybe noun phrase. You can say the teachers may impose rules, may impose certain regulations to avoid eating unhealthily. And as we go on, we see for them to have good physical looks and a good immune system. In terms of the idea, I would say teachers might not necessarily want students to eat healthy just because they want them to have good physical looks. That sounds a bit superficial. You may say they want the students to have good physical health. But then again, if you come to think about the question, what's the question asking about? The question is about whether banning the fast food in school canteens is the best way to tackle the obesity issue. So we don't see how the first two sentences here in this paragraph relate to that topic. So this student is in quite a big problem right now because so far we haven't seen any actual attempts to answer the question correctly. As we go on, we see the phrase the disciples community. I did a search on Google and I think this is some kind of Christian organization or maybe some kind of Christian community. Remember, when we are doing the IELTS writing, we should be using more general ideas. Ideas which can actually apply globally and to every situation. So this would be inappropriate to include in your essay because someone from another culture may not necessarily understand what the student is writing about. And then in this sentence, the student also writes, make extra sports activities. Remember, we cannot make an activity. We can organize an activity, we can arrange an activity, but we cannot make an activity. This is just simply wrong, a wrong use of the collocation. Now we move on to the next sentence. The student writes, however, banning fast food chains in school may lessen the students eating junk food. Well, the word lessen usually comes with the word burden. So it's lessen the burden of doing certain things, but you cannot say it lessens a certain situation. After that, we see the students write, but not necessarily fight this problem as they can still obtain to do it. So here is another wrong word choice. If you want to say you can obtain something, just say you can obtain something. You cannot say obtain to do something. It's supposed to be a transitive verb. So be very careful when you're using all these different verbs. Now we are on to the second body paragraph, which is even more problematic than the previous one because there isn't any sign the writer has tackled the question at all in this whole paragraph. Remember, the question is asking whether banning fast food from school canteens is the best way to fight the issue of children obesity. So our whole essay should be centered around this whole idea of, is it the best idea? Or if it's not the best idea, why? In the second body paragraph written here, we can see the writer listing a number of reasons why fast food is so popular. Remember, the question is not asking us why fast food is popular. It's asking whether fast food, eating banning can be like a solution to children obesity. So even without going into the issue about the vocabulary, this paragraph itself is a massive failure. First, it's talking about why fast food is so popular with the children. Well, the first sentence is about like the location, the ambience. Well, actually, this is also quite unclear as to why these two factors can be like the deciding factor in children's choice for fast food. Another thing is fast foods are very budget friendly. In this second sentence here, we have something about the monetary value, how expensive it is to have fast food, which is just totally unrelated to the topic. The last sentence, parents take this as a reward treat to the children due to easy access and hassle-free via drive-through, takeaway, or even dine-in. If you are writing something like this, the chances you're going to lose a lot of marks because the examiner might think you have memorized something which is not on topic. In the last paragraph, to sum it up, the institution may only help to break off children and can only guide them to reduce eating fast food. Well, first, the word institution, as I mentioned, is not the right word to use here, because when you're using the word institution, you're referring to maybe a university or maybe like a very prominent organization. But here we are talking about schools in general. Second wrong word choice here is the phrase break off. You can break people off from certain things, but you cannot just break off the children. In terms of the task achievement and also the vocabulary, the lexical resources, this student has performed quite poorly. So in the next video, we're going to look at how we can make the necessary changes in order to improve this essay and how to answer the question on topic.